right, everyone. Welcome to the show, Tennessee Wildcast. Good to have you here again. Jason Harmon's right over here, ready to do a good show with us. Todd Mazores is sitting behind us. We got to pull a camera around on Todd sometime, or let him stick his head in here or something like that.
He's hiding in the corner.
He's helping us with all our graphics. Todd's always great. Does a great job. And also in here is Mike Jolley. He's our guest today. And Mike is a fisheries biologist for TWRA. He works over in the Crossville office trying to bring some folks in here. And we'll get with Mike about a lot of stuff here in a few minutes. Turkey hunting, that's what we're going to talk about, Mike.
Great. Love that.
We'll get with Mike. We're going to talk a lot of fishing. We're going to talk about that great big bass that was caught on one of the most famous lakes in the country. That's from Tennessee, but we'll get there in a few minutes because we got some news to give them first. Jason, we want to keep the show full of current events. We want to keep folks on what's going on this time, even though the shows are out there all the time. They're dated, you know when they are, but we want to start keeping everything up to date and let you know some stuff that's going on right now. And this week, we want to start with a little bit of sad news before we get to the happier news, Jason. And when you take your son out and you take him on the water, what do you put on him first?
A life jacket.
Always.
For sure.
Make them grow up wearing a life jacket so they never know the difference, just like a seatbelt. Put it on them from day one, never know the difference. And the same thing with a life jacket. We had a man here a week or so ago, 10 days maybe now, still in the water, not found yet. He took his son out in a canoe on Percy Priest, which is in Middle Tennessee. It's only a few miles from where we're doing this show. Went out on a day where the wind was blowing 15, 20 miles an hour in a canoe. Him and a friend about his age, he's 36, and his 11-year-old son. The boat tipped over, the canoe did. 40 minutes of struggle in the water. Two of them had on life jackets and survived. The father of the 11-year-old son did not. 58-degree water temperature. Man didn't know how to swim, did not have on a life jacket. And his son got to watch him drown.
It was a windy day, too.
It was a windy day. Like, it was a terrible mistake. He took care of his son, but not of himself. And another fatality. Mike's been around a long time. He knows from watching wildlife officers. You guys been around for a while. If you wear your life jacket, you got probably a 95% chance of surviving, unless there's just some kind of blunt force wreck you might have on the water. You're going to probably live. The worst, even if you don't survive, the worst thing that I've seen through the years is the family waiting up on the shoreline for their loved one to be found. And here it is all these days later, this family's still waiting. So if you don't wear the life jacket for yourself, please wear it for your family. All right? They're easy. These inflatable jackets that they make these days, you don't even know they're on your body.
And they even automatic inflate some of them. You know?
Oh, absolutely. I've got one of them. You got the ones that pull, and you got the ones that automatically inflate, and that's the one I prefer just in case something happens on the way out of that boat, okay? Mm-hmm. So please wear your life jacket. I know a lot more of you probably are, but not enough of you are doing it yet, okay?
And something else to think about, the kill switches. Make sure you wear that. If you're in a boat with a motor, wear that kill switch. Shuts the engine off, won't run over you.
Absolutely. And our guys were out there. I know Todd's throwing up some photographs. Our guys were out there working this week. And if you want to see a video about some of the technology that's needed to find a missing person out there, you ought to watch it. It's on the statewide Facebook page, TWRA, shot by Barry Cross. Excellent video on what goes on trying to find a person with the technology. And Matt Bryan and Matt Majors do a great job of explaining what's going on and why you should have on your life jackets. It's fascinating to watch and went pretty viral. We had something else that went pretty viral the other day, and I was talking to Mike about it before we started. Something about that Cumberland Plateau over there, what we call sort of it's not quite east and it's not quite middle, but they got some good waters over there, and we've had yet another state record broken over there. Mike was a part of the first one. His was a big largemouth, but this is a big northern brook trout, not a southern, a northern. And it was caught on April Fool's Day by Sasa Kresick. And I hope, Mr. Kresick, I'm in the ballpark with your name. But he was throwing a minnow, and he caught that. And that's Tony Cross with him, Officer Cross, and Will Collier. Is that right, Mike?
Yes, Will Collier.
And he's a fish biologist over there. And they verified this catch. It was 4 pounds and 12 ounces. Almost beat the old record that was 40-something years old. Almost beat it by a full pound. Caney Fork River, I think right below the dam. Mm-hmm. And the man was, his story was he was going to fish a place he loved to fish all the time, but there were too many people standing in the spot, not uncommon for the Caney Fork River, and he went to another place and on his first cast broke the record that stood for 40-something years.
First cast, that's something.
First cast. I don't guess he fished anymore the rest of the day. I wouldn't have. He went over and started talking to another angler. He's a Nashvilleian, by the way. He went over and started talking to a nearby angler, and they started discussing the colors because they look somewhat like a brown trout. Mm-hmm. But it was so big when he was bringing it in, he thought it was a brown trout. They get a lot larger. They discussed it, decided it was probably a brook trout, made a telephone call to Tony Cross. He came out there and said, I couldn't believe my eyes. And so there you go. Another record for the Crossville office. Y'all must be doing something right over there, Mike.
It happens every now and then.
We're going to talk about one here in a few minutes with you that happened one day and it about drove you crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Now, update also, you turkey hunters, I think you're having a good year. Jason's not. I know he's got a shotgun now, but
Well,
you got to go.
you know, here in a few minutes, you're going to see a shot. I did get some photos of a couple of nice turkeys. They just wouldn't come in and cooperate the other day.
That's your photos. That's your photos. Okay. All right. We'll get it back up just a minute there, Todd. That's Ed Carter. Ed Carter is the director of TWRA and loves to turkey hunt. We went out with him the other day, more for a photo shoot than anything, though he can turkey hunt now and he can call. But I want to remind everyone, we are putting messages on the top of our website from our director and from others about things going on. It's tnwildlife.org, tnwildlife.org. You can go out and watch his message, and he gives a good turkey message out there. Now, the turkey hunters this year so far have harvested as of, second full week of turkey season. You throw in the kids there a little bit more, 16,511 birds. So that's pretty good with
awesome.
still 30 more days or so to go in the season when we did this show. So you're doing pretty well out there. We've had a lot of good days, Mike, don't you think?
Yeah, pretty good. It seems like some weather patterns with a lot of high winds and cold fronts has kind of worked its way in and gave a little bit more challenge than usual, I guess. But pretty good days overall.
Pretty good. Not so much rain this
No,
time,
not
though.
as much
Just
rain.
kind of cold days.
Right.
You never know with turkey hunting. I remember 6 or 7 years ago we had a hard freeze when it opened.
Yes.
And then we've had days that are balmy. But they seem to be doing pretty good. Looks like, anyway, that the pattern will be at least that 30,000 plus birds that we normally
That's
get.
what it appears to be. Yeah.
And
This
I-
weekend's looking real good, 70-something highs, and
Oh, sweet.
should be pretty Saturday.
Well, maybe even you will get out.
Hey, maybe. Let's see what
Get
happens.
a bird. I hope you do. Anyway, all right, that's what's going on. We need to introduce our guest because we want to spend the rest of the time with Mike Jolley. Mike Jolley is a Region 3, which means Cumberland Plateau in our parlance.
And the
right?
valley down.
Pardon me?
Off in the valley a little
Off
bit.
in the valley. He's a reservoir biologist over in the Region 3 office. Mike, how long you been there?
I've been working in fish management for going on 23 years now.
Okay. And when I say reservoir biologist, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
reservoir biologist.
What does that mean to us folks that don't live in your world exactly?
Right, sure. It would. So what it entails is basically what the name captures is all the reservoirs within Region 3. We have 9 reservoirs, which is about 150,000 acres of water.
lot of water.
A lot of water.
Yeah.
And a lot of habitat, of course, diversity within the systems, even though they're just separated by a dam many times. So a lot of different species of fish that we look at. But it's everything within that water that deals with the fish and the anglers and the habitat. We're looking at it, making assessments, looking at the resource, and the
Okay.
sustainability of it.
Well, name some of the waters over there. What are the big lakes that you got?
So as we come down the Tennessee River, Watts Bar, Chickamauga, Nickajack, the upper portion of Gunnersville that lies in the state of Tennessee, of course. As we get up on the Cumberland Plateau, would be looking at Del Hollow, Center Hill, Great Falls. We also have Parksville that the Ocoee River empties into
okay.
over there.
All right. That's a lot of bodies of water and
Yeah.
some pretty famous ones in there, too. We all love the ones you just named, right?
Absolutely.
None of them are too far for, anywhere in Tennessee. But if you're in the middle western part of the state, as long as you're not way west, not a bad drive. To
Not
those
a bad
places.
drive at all.
Yeah.
And we see people really commute within those bodies of water quite often, depending on what their target species is. And, of course, Cordell Hull being on our western edge of our region there, that's a very good reservoir as well.
I love Cordell Hall. I haven't fished the lakeside so much as I have really right below the dam where it's
Yeah.
called Old Hickory, but
Sure.
it's still the same water coming out of
It
there.
is.
I love fishing down there, and you got the Caney Fork River, and
Right.
just a little, I don't know how that works exactly, where some of it edges right there into Middleton, into Region 2, but
Right.
it does.
Really rich.
It is rich. We were going to talk about one of the lakes that people will easily travel to from Middle Tennessee, but not just Middle Tennessee, all over the country, and that's Chickamauga.
Yes.
Is Lake Chickamauga or Chickamauga Lake?
Either one. We hear, at least you say Chickamauga because we hear Chickamauga, Chickamauga. So a lot of people really wrestle with that word. A lot of people. There was even an article done about the proper pronunciation of Chickamauga a while back. But it really is people from all over different nation, not different nations, but within the nation, traveling down. A lot of out-of-state people are really setting their vacations there. Even buying a lot of homes in that area because of the fishing there.
Because of the fishing.
Yeah.
That is where the state record bass came from that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. 15 pounds, 3 ounces caught in February of a year ago this past February. on the 13th we were
Yes.
talking about earlier. Gabe King caught him. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. But before Gabe caught that fish, there were other folks out there you were seeing photographs of these guys weighing in stringers of fish that there you go, right there. Stuff like this. This made this lake, long before Gabe caught his fish, these kind of photographs were making Chickamauga famous across the country.
Really. And it was, we had a stringer like this. We had a 44-pound stringer recorded, and also a 49-pound stringer with 5 fish recorded. And they was those were not tournament weigh-ins, but they were officially weighed and all that, as best they could. But it really brought a significant exposure to Chickamauga, because of people absolutely went wild when they would see these pictures, and a lot of 8, 9, 10, 11-pound bass were being caught. We had one at 13-pound that was caught in 2013, so that was knocking at the door of the state record then. So everybody realized the great potential that was there. Tournament weigh-ins were higher than they had ever been. Creel clerks were seeing bigger fish than they had seen, and just a lot of feedback from the public, and so it was really setting the stage, for excitement and anticipation of a possible record being broken.
And it was.
And it was.
And okay, and I want to back up. I missed something early, Mike. Your job as a reservoir biologist is to do what? What are you to do on your daily work is?
We really are looking out for the resource, and looking out for all the species of fish that we have. Tennessee is really diverse in fish species, so it's a great challenge looking at all the different species. They all have different preferred habitat, a lot of different pressures and different things. So we're looking at the species through different kinds of data collections. We also, of course, monitor their habitat, and we're also listening to our angling public. So if the resource is in good condition, good shape, and sustainable through the best management practices that we can institute with those, then it really makes it a viable resource for a lot of different areas of recreation and different things.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Chickamauga, but my brain is also wanting me to talk about Dale Hollow, smallmouth, Dale Hollow.
We can do that,
and we will. We might not make it this show, but we're going to keep you for a couple of shows. We're going to have Mike on again next week because he traveled in to talk to us, and he's just too many things to talk about. But Chickamauga, what makes this lake? Why is the management so good on it right now? It is part of the Tennessee River system, which goes so far. But why Chickamauga?
Well, I get asked that question quite a bit, and understandably so, and I've attributed it to being the perfect storm, Doug. There's a lot of factors that came together right there. Chickamauga had always been, had a reputation for good spawning habitat, a lot of year-class strength of fish, which means every year they're getting a good production off, and those fish are making it through to that catchable size. But it also has a great forage base, threadfin, gizzard shad. The aquatic vegetation has really come back and been more sustained in the last few years, providing even more preferred habitat for those fish. So when all that come together, and it did, it was really a perfect setting for the stocking of Florida bass that bred with the northern bass that were there, the pre-existing bass in Chickamauga, and really had all the ingredients they needed to achieve those great sizes. They already had good growth rates that we had seen before, and it was only enhanced throughout the stocking project,
Okay, and you're talking about the Florida largemouth. There's some fingerlings that are going in, getting ready to be stocked. Where does the credit go to this, Mike? It started 15 years, give or take, or so ago. Yeah. Did it start by a local bass club, by TWRA? Where's the credit go for all this?
It was a project that started in the year 2000. There had been a lot of talk about what can be done at Chickamauga bass fishery, because used to it was the host of some major tournaments. The aquatic vegetation in the early 90s was basically gone, and the fishery kind of went with it, and so people started going to Gunnersville and different places. So the fishermen are very passionate about Chickamauga, especially the guys that had seen it back in the glory days of the 80s.
There's a Chattanooga Bass Club down there that I know is passionate.
Very passionate. Yeah. They've been great to work with us. I could get into that a little bit later as well. So the fishermen and TWRA shared the thought of, what can we do to really promote Chickamauga into being what it can be. So there was a lot of different discussions on what that would be. Settled in on the stocking of the Florida largemouth bass because the criteria that we needed to be there for it to have that possibility of making it were in place at Chickamauga. So it was a good fit. A lot of help with the bass fishermen helped us in that first year. Even raised some money to put forth towards the fingerling stockings, and they've been very excited about it. And really, with any trophy management program that you would want to do, you would need the support of course, the public, going into that venture. And they've been very supportive, and they're very excited about it, and we're patient. It's not anything that's going to happen overnight.
Well, with the time we have, it goes so fast, but with the time we have left in here, the Chickamauga bass, I want to make sure they know that this is the F1. This is the offspring, the hybrid version that's
Right.
really making the news, is it not?
Yeah, yes. So a lot of the thought from the public was these pure Florida bass that they're stocking are going to be the very fish that we see in that 8, 9, 10, 11 pound range eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of unknowns because, as I said, every reservoir is different. So how things are going to react to different stocking regimes and things like that is what we monitor. But what we found out through electrofishing surveys and genetic tests was it was not the pure Floridas that were showing up. It was the hybrids and the back crosses. So a hybrid being a cross between a pure Florida and a pure Northern, which pure Northern being the existing fish in Chickamauga before the stocking, although there was some Florida genetics already present in the population there at a minimal amount. Back cross being a hybrid crossing with another hybrid, or a hybrid crossing back to a pure Florida or a pure
I'm
Northern.
with you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we were seeing a lot of back crosses, but what we found through genetic studies, Doug, is that the back crosses, even the back crosses, are outgrowing the population that was there before the stock, and the hybrids are the ones that are really exhibiting the greatest length and pounds, per age.
Was the state record 15.3 caught by Gabe Keene? Was it a hybrid?
It was a hybrid.
Okay.
It was a 12-year-old fish. Which the thing about it being 12-year-old goes back to if you wanted to give it a birth date, it would be 2003. And in 2003, on the Tennessee River system, there was a lot of spring rains and a flood that year, and the bass really got off a great spawn. So there were a lot of fish out there to reproduce and interact with the fish that we had stocked.
Okay, all right. And you're seeing photographs now of Gabe. That's Gabe right there on the screen with his bass that he caught, and he had a great day out there that day.
He did.
You didn't. You were at the Turkey Federation at the NWTF on the very day that fish got caught, and you said your phone blew up, and
It
you
blew
never
up.
got to look at a call while you were there. So anyway, Gabe's a good guy. Brought him to
Great
Nashville,
guy.
took photographs of him, and documented his catch, put him in a magazine if you want to read about Tennessee Wildlife Magazine. But it was a great day. Mike, will it be broke again? Will this lake sustain the fame that it's got right now? Will Chickamauga be this famous 5-10 years from now, and will there be another record?
I think the possibility of another record could happen today. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. If it took it 5 years, I really wouldn't be surprised either. A lot of different factors going into that. Of course, this fish was a 12-year-old fish. That's about maximum life, for the fish, and you lose a certain amount of your population each year through different kinds of mortality. So that's being reduced each year. There's more pressure on Chickamauga than there's ever been.
For sure.
For sure. So 5 or 10 years. I'll tell you this, we feel like it will be sustained. I don't know how the levels will be comparable to what we've seen this first 8, 9, 10 years and 12 within this program. But there's a lot of focus on Chickamauga with this project nationwide through other biologists and stuff, just to see the reaction of how it's going to do over time.
Is the habitat staying the same?
The habitat for right now is. And so when I talk about that perfect storm, one thing that would concern me, I'm not concerned now about it, is if one of those main factors, ingredients, if you will, were taken out of that, such as the aquatic vegetation, forage base, which would be highly unlikely. But all those need to be there, those components in place.
Does TWRA kill the forage over there?
No, we do not.
It's a rumor that's gone around for a long time.
Yeah, we do
The agency
not.
does not kill. We like habitat.
We like habitat.
All right, Mike, we're going to run out of time, Mike, and it goes so quick, but you're coming back next week. And,
Sure.
And Chickamauga is a great lake. I hope folks continue to go there, but it has other fish in it. I know it's
Yes.
got good crappie. I've caught good shellcracker. And come back next week, and let's talk about that portion of the lake. And I also want to talk about Delhala.
Be happy to.
And I want you to pull out a turkey call, because I know you're a turkey hunter. And when we come back next week, the very beginning of the show, close to the beginning,
Yeah.
let's do a little turkey talk.
That'll work.
Okay?
That works for me.
That's what I want to do. Gabe is shown here, and have you talked to him perchance since he caught this fish?
Yes, I have. He has talked to him a couple of times. Just a great guy, a great recipient of catching such a fish as this, and just been a really good guy. You know, he was already set up as a high school bass fishing coach there, so he's really been able to use that and propel the resource management and the agency and different things, and as far as just the excitement of bass fishing into those students' minds, even more so.
Yeah,
but
teaches
he's
world
been
history or something like
yes,
that. Yes,
right.
There as a teacher.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. And question real quick before that music goes off: access on Chickamauga, is it good?
It's not great.
Oh, okay. We got more. Okay, go ahead.
It's not great. There's not so the upper third half of Chickamauga is real riverine. There's not a great number of access points there. The major one there in Dayton is about mid-reservoir. So the locals there now have found it a real challenge to be able to put a boat in and just go out and do what they've done for years because of all the large tournaments and pleasure fishermen that are coming in and vacationing there now. So it really is an issue there. And I know we've looked at ways to help out with ramps that are not necessarily TWRA ramps, but try to go in and help rejuvenate some of those. Look to some county municipalities for maybe helping with some of their ramps and all that we can do there. So, no, it could stand some more boat ramps for sure.
Okay. All right. And Chickamauga is part of the Tennessee River system. Is it a warm part of the system? Is it a cool part of the system? How far are you down when you get there? And does that matter?
Yeah, it's really pretty much the same as the Nickajack below it and Watts Bar above it right there. But warm water for sure. But it's a really, each reservoir is so different, and Chickamauga even within itself, with the upper end being more river but the bottom end being more lake-like, with a lot more habitat for spawning and different things like that.
Nickajack is one that when we talk next week, I at least want to mention a Nickajack. I have fished it several times now, and with a guy named Rick McFerrin, great fisherman, and he's caught a lot of bass, but they don't look like the size that we're seeing coming out of Chickamauga. Yeah. Is there a reason for that?
Not that I would know of, because Nickajack's really got a lot of forage base there as well.
Yeah, maybe Rick's just not all as good as we think he is. We caught a lot of bass out of there, but you cross over Nickajack from Nashville going toward going your way, and it's just a great looking lake.
It really is.
I just wonder if it could produce those fish.
I think so. And we've started the stocking program with Florida Bass in Nickajack and Watts Bar last year within Region 3. So we'll be anxious to look at that through the years to come.
Okay, how many lakes are getting Florida largemouth now?
5 across the state, to the best of my knowledge. So there'll be 3 in Region 3 now. Of course, Chickamauga, even though we've met and exceeded our initial goals of the project, we're still stocking Florida bass there. And then Watts Bar and Nickajack have come on.
All those lakes you named early in the show, is there one, not necessarily for bass, that people don't think about as much as others, that's really a good lake to go fishing?
I guess some of our sleeper lakes would be more of a Parksville Great Falls. They're about 2,000 acres each. They're kind of tucked and out of the way, but with Great Falls has some great crappie fishing in it. And we've been stocking crappie in Parksville now for 3 years, and really hoping to get that established with black-nosed crappie there, and hope to be putting walleye in it soon as well. But we really got some pretty good red ear bluegill fishing in Parksville and different places, but they don't have a lot of access points. There's not a lot of pressure there. They're really kind of under the radar. But as far as different catfish places too, like Watts Bar, Chickamauga has taken so much of the spotlight that people even on Watts Bar are traveling, to the next reservoir down to Chickamauga now, and Nickajack the same way up the reservoir. So those two places have great potential for a lot of good fishing as well. Watts Bar has a really awesome smallmouth bass fishery, and really proud of it. It's doing well.
Okay.
So.
Would you, if you had the name in your Chickamauga, what would be the one right behind Chickamauga? Or are you going to really surprise us and tell us there's one better than Chickamauga in your part of the world?
Bass fishing?
Just for bass fishing.
Yeah, couldn't leave Del Hollow out. It's just been unreal with the smallmouth bass fishermen. Had went and talked with out doing some surveys the other day. Was able to talk at the boat dock owner there at Cedar Hill Resort, and was talking about 4 of his clients had come in, and they were catching 50 to 60 smallmouth bass a day, collectively, and all nice fish, And so I hear a lot about people catching 15 to 20 smallmouth a day, and 2.5, 3 pound plus fish, so where else can you go do that? I mean, it's just phenomenal.
I actually had an email from somebody the other day wanting to know, could we put Florida largemouth bass in Del Hollow Lake? And I wrote no in big, large letters.
Right.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not going to happen, is it?
No, not. There's no recommendation on our part to do anything.
It's just
like
one
that
email.
For sure. Yeah, I have been asked that question basically on every reservoir that I manage and beyond. That they really think that's the magic bullet with the Florida bass, and I could see how it would get that appearance by looking at Chickamauga and the success, and as we look at pictures of Gabe, with that big fish and these large stringers of fish, and it looks like you're stocking some super fish out there and it's going to work everywhere, and it's absolutely not going to work everywhere. The ingredients have to be in place, and
you certainly don't want to go mess up the best smallmouth lake in the country.
Exactly.
And it is the best smallmouth lake in this country anyway. You catch a lot of smallmouth up in Canada, but they don't get as big as they do on Del Hollow.
No, and consistent.
Yeah, and I wanted to save this for next week, but is there another record smallmouth? I might ask you again next week, but is there another record smallmouth in this state? Can 11 pounds, 15 ounces be beat on Del Hollow or somewhere else?
A few years ago, and I've got the picture hanging in my office, a guy had caught a below Chickamauga Dam, the upper end of Nickajack, smallmouth bass over 10 pound right there. It was a huge fish, and I begged the guy when he had whatever he was going to do with it to get the head out of it, where I could get the odorless, which are the ear bones, so I could age it, different data. But the guy never got back with me on that. But that showed me, and talking to some of the other fishermen, even on the Tennessee River, especially in these tailwaters, you catch a lot of really big, 7, 8 pound, not every day, but smallmouth bass. You see them. So I think the potential's there, but it would be more of a surprise to see that than another largemouth record, in my opinion.
I think so,
Yeah.
especially with what you're doing with the Florida largemouth. I think it probably would be too. Anyway, well, good deal, Mike. And before we go, let's go ahead and talk about turkey for a second, because I kind of messed up our time in here a minute ago. But turkey hunting, you love it?
Love it.
And how have you done so far this year?
I've actually, and it's going to sound like excuses, but I've only been a couple of times. But I did get to go over the weekend there, and had some close encounters with some gobblers, but some hens really outdid me, So they were very active and breeding with the hens and different things there. So it's in full swing, and they were. It was good to see them, and so I guess I'll go back and visit that at another time.
How is it hunting on the plateau versus down in where we hunt around the Nashville area?
Well, Catoosa, was always known as having those real native wild birds, and if you killed a Catoosa bird, even if it was 17 or 18 pound, was a much greater trophy in a lot of people's eyes than a 30-pound bird in Middle Tennessee or West Tennessee, just because they were so wild acting and hard to deal with in those mountainous terrains and just their nature.
All right. Pull off that call for next week. You're coming back.
Sure.
We're going to catch some crappie next week with Mike.
Great.
We're going to talk about some lakes over there and some bluegill and stuff, okay?
All right.
Enjoyed the talk. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug.
Maybe by next week you'll have a turkey, but I doubt it.
Don't forget to watch on TWRA TV, catch it on our homepage, or go to tnwildcast.com and listen.
All right, and all the shows that we've taped are out there that we've done so far. Todd, thank you for the work, everybody. See you next week.